Hi, I'm Brandon Johnson. I'm from Finksburg, Maryland. I played attack at Robert Morris University, and I'm currently the Central Maryland Multi-Area Director for FCA. It was 2004. It was the summer of my senior year of high school. I went to Westminster High School, and at that time I found my identity in many things. Popularity, drawing attention to myself, being liked, having a girlfriend almost all the time, and lacrosse started becoming something that I found my identity in and my significance in. I started to excel on the playing field. I became known in my community as being a pretty good lacrosse player. And so the more I excelled at lacrosse, the more that I found my significance in lacrosse. And at the time, I didn't really know who Jesus was, didn't really know anything about religion. All I knew that it seemed to be a set of morals that you had to live by and try to behave in a certain way and to be a good person. But beyond that, I didn't really know what a relationship with Jesus looked like. So entering my senior year, one of the key things that was on my mind was to play Division I lacrosse. That was my goal. And the one way to get recruited to play Division I lacrosse was to get in front of coaches. So my mom helped me get signed up for a couple tryouts of club teams and some tournament teams, and I tried out for one and got cut. And then the second one was the Christian team. I went and tried out for the FCA National Elite Team. It was actually the first one ever put together in 2004. And I had a great tryout and I made the team. So that summer, I spent about 2 weeks with the team. And at that time, there was staff, there was coaches on that team, there was players, and it was like a new culture and a new environment that I've really never been a part of. I played for many different lacrosse teams throughout my playing career. And this team, I was communicated to. We had huddles, we had prayer before and after games, we had worship, and this was like a totally new environment and opportunity that I've ever been involved with. And at that time, like, the coaches and the staff were telling me about Jesus, and that the things that I was putting my faith in and my identity in were things that were going to crumble at some point. Worrying about if people liked me, having a girlfriend, like, could all fall apart. And they introduced me to this guy named Jesus, the God of the universe, who walked this earth perfectly and died and rose again. And by placing my faith in him, I could have an eternal salvation and security in who he was. And that's never ending, never failing, and his love was always pursuing me, unlike the things that I was putting my identity in before. So God spoke to me in a way through coaches and athletes and staff that spoke my language in the lacrosse community. And that's when it hit me that I needed to place my faith and my belief in Jesus Christ. So that was the turning point in my story, was through the 2004 National Elite Team that FCA Lacrosse put on. And fast forward, I still struggled with some things in high school my last year, my senior year at Westminster, but I was new in my faith. I was pursuing God. I wasn't perfect. I'm still not perfect, but I was moving in a direction toward him. FCA Lacrosse also allowed me to play in front of college coaches. So I played Division I lacrosse, my dream, for this new lacrosse program, Robert Morris University. And I got to play where I wanted to play, and going there, I knew nobody. And being in college and playing college lacrosse and being somebody who stands up in your faith is challenging. It's really hard. And I found that out early. And in the first week, I was met with a decision. I got invited to go to campus worship on a Wednesday night. And just because one of the players on my team knew I played for an FCA team and I had some sort of Christian background. And I had a decision to make. Am I going to go or am I not? Because in college, nobody knew me. I could go down this route or I could go down that route. And God opened up a door. I got plugged in with this worship group, and then got plugged in with some really, really solid guys that discipled me and mentored me through my 4 years of college, and it really grew my faith. So that decision was a catalyst. I could have walked away from my newfound faith or I could pursue it even more. And God opened a door and I walked through it, and my faith started to take a really solid foundation. And another thing that God did in college was the thing that I found the most identity in high school was lacrosse. I was arrogant, I was super overconfident in my ability, and going to play Division I lacrosse with players who were just as good as me, if not better than me, humbled me in a major way. So God used what I found my identity in to humble me in a major way. Before I knew it, college was over and I was into the working world. I had a job in the corporate world in Timonium, Maryland, and I got plugged into a local church near where I lived in Finksburg. And through that local church, I met a guy named Jimmy Page. Jimmy currently works for FCA, and at the time he was the Mid-Atlantic Regional Vice President. I didn't know Jimmy, but through a missions trip that we went on, I shared briefly with Jimmy the impact that FCA had on my life, just to thank him and affirm what he was doing with his career, and I didn't expect anything in return. The first words out of Jimmy's mouth were, "We have an opening on staff in Carroll County. What do you think about coming on staff?" And at that moment, I felt God place a burden on my heart, and I had another decision in my life to make. I asked people about what they thought about me leaving the corporate world to go into nonprofit ministry. Some people encouraged me, some people discouraged me to stay in the corporate world, and some people encouraged me to follow the burden and the passion that God was starting to stir in my heart. But at the end of the day, it was my decision. And so 6 months later of praying and wrestling through this decision that Jimmy put in front of me, I said yes. And in 2012, 8 years ago, I came on staff with the Fellowship of Christian Athletes, the organization that changed my life, that Jesus used to change my life. And it hasn't been perfect. My journey hasn't been perfect through high school to college to even now. I wrestle with things, and I've wrestled with things in the past, but God has opened doors. The moral of my story is to put yourself in situations, in good, healthy environments where God can do something with your life, that God can direct you down a path. In high school, I wasn't sure about the FCA lacrosse team, but I did it. I was open to it, and I was open to the relationships that God was building through that, and it changed my life. In college, I was open to go into a worship service where there wasn't a whole lot of lacrosse players or athletes, but you know what, I went, and it really was a catalyst in my life. And then out of college, I got plugged into a church and was just open to whatever God was leading me to, and He changed my career into the passion that I have now. And I met my wife about at the same time 8 years ago through that church too. My challenge to you is to put yourself in opportunities where God can do something. Put yourself in healthy environments that God might open the door. And my challenge to you is to step through that door. We have decisions in life where we can go one way or the other, and God might open a door. It's up to us to make that step, to take that challenge and take that step towards God, and you never know what He can do through that.